Okay, my first couple of notes are just technical things, very specific. So first of all, when you get the corner with your drive rush cancel combo or your standing heavy punch target combo like this, but you can't get the light spiral arrow into whatever, you're always doing double dash afterwards. You're always doing double dash, which only puts you at +2, which in this spacing is not very good. So if you're going to get the corner, just do a single dash and then just walk up. And then, do manually time a crouch fierce or shimmy or something like that. But don't double dash if you don't need to, because the frame data is not very good. You're forced to double dash in mid-screen, but if you don't have to, if you're going to get the corner, don't double dash. Next is a note about Cammy's crouch medium kick, where her crouch medium kick drive rush cancel like this doesn't always reach the same spacing. So for instance, as you can see right here, the feet of the interaction are kind of interacting like this, so about 2 to 3 of Ryu's toes over, where if I did much closer, as you can see, the distance differential is very significant. It's like a whole 0.1, 0.15 fractions of a whole square. So because of that, this is the reason why you are frequently doing this and then trying to get a light kick, a third light, and then missing, is because you're doing drive rush cancel crouching medium kick, but if you're far away, unless you're point blank like this, you're not close enough to get 3 lights. If you do it from here, you're not close enough, period. So there's 2 things that you can do to fix this. One is that, let's say the opponent walks backwards after blocking you, okay? So if we're at max range and we do this, as you can see, if we do crouch medium kick, drive rush, cancel, crouch jab, and then throw, we can't even get a throw here because he can just walk out of it. So here's the first point. If you're doing crouch medium kick, drive rush cancel to stand jab instead of crouch jab. If we do stand jab, we're a little bit closer and we'll always be in range to throw, even if he's walking backwards. The second hit, if we're doing drive rush cancel, don't bother with the third light. Don't bother with the light kick. Confirm 2 lights into spiral arrow. And this also leads into a third point. Most super high level 2000 MR or higher Cammy players don't even bother going for the third light. They just do this and then they do spiral arrow. And one of the other reasons they do that, other than just consistency, is because let's say we do spiral arrow from stand jab like this. You know how you like to do forward dash into medium punch because it's a manually timed meaty and you don't need a counter hit and it'll auto-confirm into heavy punch? Here's the thing. The reason why that's inconsistent for you is because if you do spiral arrow off of light kick like this, if you're too far away, it'll be different frame data. So if you do it from a jab, either stand jab or crouch jab, the frame data is guaranteed to be exactly the same every single time. No matter how far away you are, it's always a perfect meaty. Whereas if you do it from light kick, if I forward dash and medium punch, oh, it whiffed. Because the travel time of the spiral arrow before it hit him was longer, therefore I'm more plus, and I get a less consistent knockdown. So don't feel like you have to do the third light unless you're in very controlled situations. Just do 2 lights, jab into this. You get a much more controlled scenario with a much better meaty. Than trying to do this and then manually time your medium punch. That's why you're getting errors off of that situation. Sometimes you're trying to manually time your medium punch and then link it into crouching medium punch, or you're too far away, or you're not plus enough, etc. It's because you're trying to put this stand light kick in there where you don't have to. 2 lights is better. More consistent, just easier. I went over a bunch of your VODs. I've been going over your VODs for a couple hours or whatever for the last couple days. And I have a bunch of random notes. You don't have to. You can look at these if you want to, but I'll try to summarize them much more succinctly than this. So, anyways, what I already talked about. So, okay. So generally on ranked, I would say that the most consistent things that you can do is have built-in spacing traps and stuff. You'll see in matches or in scenarios that you're losing in ranked. A lot of the times, it's because the opponent is doing like built-in spacing traps and stuff that are just, you know, kind of universal. Like if we watch this Ryu guy and so like let's take a look at so I'll try to point out as many relevant notes as I can. Okay, first thing, I think you double dash here. Yeah, so that's a place where you're just hurting yourself by double dashing. You're giving yourself a worse meaty and less control over the situation. Okay, then that's an autopilot. So this guy just did like light Hashigeki to bait you into parrying, and then you parry, and then you cancel your parry into a drive rush. That's like autopilot shit, right? So that's like a bait that works against people that have not like played the matchup or not played against this person enough. So that's a lot of how people make their ranked matches more consistent. That kind of thing doesn't work in long sets, but they're very powerful go-to spacing traps, go-to baits, go-to fakes in neutral is how you can add a lot of shit to that. So, and then this is the next note, is that your delay buttons, your most common defensive habit is delay crouch medium punch. And in this circumstance, I think you just did a wake-up counter hit, a wake-up mash. I don't know what you pressed. You get quite a few badly spaced dive kicks in your playing. That's just, you know, regular mistakes, kind of. Now, this is my next note, which is that when you're in neutral and you just see any animation that makes you want to, like, press a button to whiff punish or control spacing or something, I would recommend doing standing heavy kick more than crouching medium punch in the places that you're doing it. Go for standing heavy kick more, I would say. So standing heavy kick there or there. Now next is your defensive habits. Your most frequent defensive habits is you either block, you delay tech, sometimes you XDP, not very frequently, or you do delay crouch medium punch. And I think you could do delay back jump more frequently. So block for a moment and then back jump, and that would have gotten you away from this circumstance. I think because he had high drive gauge, you were worried about him doing crouching medium kick drive rush, which is a legitimate worry, right? So that's why you weren't going to walk backwards, which is what allowed him to do this walk up. But if you had done delay block, like crouch block for a moment and then up back, you could have escaped from this, and your likelihood of getting hit low would have been lower. My other note is that when you decide to throw tech here, just as a general rule, and this applies to like most players, as a general rule, when you're on wake up, you want to throw tech much, much less, but if the opponent is plus, and then they walk up and throw like this, this is a place where you can tech way more. Part of the reason is because this is a place where you're not going to be prepared to input an EXTP as soon as you see them walking forwards. And part of the reason is because when they're walking forwards, their likelihood of shimmying you is much lower, because they don't want to get hit by a delay medium into a drive rush cancel. So if you're going to just stay crouch blocking in fear of a crouching medium kick drive rush cancel, if you see them walking forwards, you should be much more willing to throw tech only when you see them walking at you. I also think that until you get to 1900 MR, you can probably do like more gimmicky stuff, like drive rush cancel into throw, or into a delayed crouching heavy punch to beat the throw tech. You can abuse that kind of thing way more against characters that don't have EXTPs, or any player that is like below 1900 MR, I would say, is not going to be doing the EXDP option select very much. But part of this stuff is just matchup inexperience. I would say watching your VODs the last couple days, the matchups that you struggle the most in, that you could use more experience in, are, where did I put them? Ryu, Manon, and Marisa are ones where you could use some matchup knowledge. I put like any random thing where I saw a matchup where there was some knowledge check that you could have been doing something better. But the ones where it would make the biggest difference right away are Ryu, Manon, and Marisa. I will say, you fight a couple of Ryu players. A lot of the Ryu players you fight are surprisingly good at checking your heavy spin knuckles. I would say a lot of the time you can abuse spin knuckle more. I would say, like, so long as, like, think of the opponent's preparedness in terms of, if you're at here, then there's only so many things they have to be looking for. So they're probably just going to be walking back or backdashing to bait dive kick, because dive kick or spin knuckle are the only things that you have here. If you add in deep drive rushes, like drive rush long distances into either heavy kick or jab, which throws off their check timings and stuff, you can add a couple other tools in. You can add in dash up into crouch medium kick drive rush, which will increase the level of threat and reactions they need to be thinking about in dive kick range. But beyond that, I would just say deep walking in into stand jab whiff, stand jab hit, standing medium punch, and then try to counter hit confirm if you beat them. Walk up into some spacing trap with like heavy kick, drive rush cancel, or whatever. And then whenever you do walk up into stand jab or stand jab whiff, you can then do other things. So you could do like a delay walk back into heavy kick, jump, drive rush cancel, etc. That kind of thing. And so, yeah, this is another one of my notes, but your most frequent action and your biggest mistake by far right now is your autopiloting of walk back or delay crouch medium punch. Because if we put the opponent into a blocking situation, let's say that they do delay crouch medium punch after blocking at like an 8-frame delay. Let's have the same thing at like a 10-frame delay, and then the same thing at like do a 12-frame delay. As you can see, if I do the same walk back crouch medium punch, sometimes I beat him, and sometimes I just lose. So the problem with always doing walk back crouching medium punch is that depending on how much they delay their delay button and what button they choose, you're just gambling. You're just taking a kind of mediocre gamble on whose delay button is going to connect. So I would advise two parts. I would advise... Oh, and by the way, as we're going to see while I go over your VODs, literally 100% of the time that you do a dive kick that's plus on block, you always, literally 100% of the time, do walk back crouch medium punch. Any dive kick that you hit that is like not plus enough to combo off of, like that is plus enough, but any dive kick that you don't think you're plus enough to combo off of, or any dive kick that you do that's 0 or plus on block, you always do walk back crouch medium punch. And that is... And you do it in lots of other places, too, that create problems, where you're just gambling on whose delay button is going to win. So, there's two things I would say. One is to control your offense more so that when you are 0 or plus on block or something, off of a dive kick, when you're -1, 0, or plus on block, control your offense. When you have the ability to have more controlled offense, instead of doing a walk back crouch medium punch and then gambling on kind of the whims of fate of who's going to win the interaction, try to, even if you're taking risks, it's better to take risks in cases that you risk getting hit by a jab check, like having a small gap so that if the opponent jab checks you, they can get that instead of risking getting hit by that, you know? So tighter, more controlled offense like that when you have the ability, when even if you're -1, if you try to control them with a jab, the worst you're going to take is a jab check instead of trying to do walk back, crouch, medium punch, and then you risk taking a lot worse if the opponent's delay button hits you or if they walk back in such a way that you get whiff punished. Heavy kick will be less likely to fail, especially if the opponent was walking backwards during the delay portion of it. So I would say when you react to random stuff in neutral at like any random spacing, most random spacings when you're not particularly close to the opponent, or when you do a deeper delay action, go to heavy kick or forward jump more often. See, like there, heavy kick would have won. So this guy, this is another sort of like, this guy defends himself in like 3 ways. He does wake up jab, wake up delay jab, or EXDP. And so you can beat that. So one of the other things that I wanted to talk about is your offensive actions, which your offense is quite, but there's a couple things that you can add to your toolkit. So for example, one thing that you're not doing enough is gap crouch heavy punch. So crouch heavy punch in a place where you're like only +1, +2, etc. Big gap into crouching heavy punch. So that will blow up a lot of delay techs, but more importantly, a lot of delay buttons that a lot of these players of this rank are going to be using all the time. So gap crouch heavy punch. Another thing is delay crouch jab. So this is like here where you get Oki. This is more for in the corner, but let's say you get Oki like this. You wait for a second to block an EXDP, and then you do crouch jab. So sit in their face and then do a block delay crouch jab. And the next note is related to your overuse of walk back crouch medium punch. But when you shimmy, react to the shimmy. Don't just autopilot. This is getting you blown up like all the time. Like so. Also, you sometimes try, like, defensive actions that you don't know whether or not they're going to work. Like, there's a couple times where you're, like, trying to fight Ryu and, like, you do a DI to, like, try to... Like, I think you think it'll beat, like, him doing, I don't know, jab, Hashigeki, etc. I would not advise that kind of thing. This is another instance where if your reaction, like, your random reaction impulse was to do heavy kick rather than crouch medium punch... You, in reaction to a whiff, you would have been fine. The heavy kick is just better in those places. Safer, more controlled. But in any case, yeah, if they do delay button, which a lot of the times they will, there's like 4 ways that you can beat them doing like delay mash on wake up. So I have him doing wake up into a delayed this, so that he will block a meaty, but then take his turn afterwards. So the methods that you can use to beat this are obviously throw, delay meaty, and then one method that you can use to throw off people's delay jab timings is do crouch jab, and then instead of doing a true frame trap sequence like this, you do crouch jab, then you wait for a moment for it to not be a rapid cancel, and then you do crouch jab, stand jab like that. And that will very frequently throw off people's delay jab timings, and even if they don't get counter hit by the second jab, they might get counter hit by the third jab. Just like that. That's a good way to beat up people who do a lot of delay buttons very quickly. And all of these things where he does stand light kick into forward heavy punch, that is an auto spacing trap where he's trying to, if you take your turn after the stand light kick, with like a crouch strong or something, you'll automatically get whiff punished. But these are places where in this matchup I would say neutral jump is really good. But in this instance where he's like does forward heavy punch and then walk up, whatever, if you done block, delay, jump back, you could escape some of his pressure like that. One thing to make your standing heavy kick stronger is not like the light kick buffer or the crouch jab are both good. Also, doing immediate dive kick afterwards is quite good. But another thing to do a lot is just block, delay into another heavy kick, or walk back into another heavy kick, or block, delay, jump, or just backdash. A lot of the times, just backdash after this, and it will force the opponent to do a lot of other... This is a relatively safe thing to do that will encourage the opponent to do things that leave them open more often. A lot of high-level Kami players often just do standing heavy kick backdash to control the opponent. See, so sometimes your walk back crouching medium punch will work against random opponents because when you're on ranked, you're fighting new people all the time. But I would say you do this every single time, and this is riskier than it is like... If you're already plus, or at least 0 or even -1 off of your dive kick on block, just do jab or, like, control the opponent. Smaller gaps that only risk them jab checking you are much better than risking getting, like, crouching medium punch drive rush canceled for doing a bigger walk back.
Okay.
Control the opponent more. Smaller gaps are better. As you can see, these replays, all he's doing is just the same gimmicky space trap over and over, where he does like blah blah blah, light kick, forward heavy punch, etc. And then that time it caught you pressing like your crouching medium punch. So yeah, those are my main notes. Autopilot, more offensive techniques with smaller gaps, less risk. Reactive and delay stand heavy kick way more frequently. Block, delay, jump, back jump, neutral jump, or forward jump. All three are strong and have to be countered in different ways by the opponent. So delay jump in any direction way more frequently. And then your matchups you need to work on particularly are Ryu, Manon, Marisa. Yeah, and then a lot of this stuff is just, you can care about this if you want to.